Hi friends, welcome to my chemistry class. I'm V. Ragasuma. Today's class I'm going to teach you about the applications of the coordination compounds. In coordination compounds, there are vast applications. So they are identified to exist in all areas of our daily life. You can see their existence in the minerals, plants, animals, metallurgy, medicine, industry, water softening, and so on. So, profound changes occur in the property of the metal on bonding with the ligand and complex formation. These profound changes of the complex is very much useful for us in the inorganic analysis and in the organic analysis. So we are applying these uses. We are having the vast applications of the complex compounds in the quantitative analysis, in the qualitative analysis. In the qualitative analysis, you are having the applications for the gravimetric analysis, you are having the application for the volumetric analysis, and we are having their applications in the solvent extraction as well as in the spectrophotometric applications. And in the medicine also, today in the daily life, we are applying these complexes. We are using these complexes for our in the medicine as well as in the industry as well as in the water softening and industries. So let me have a look on the slide share and I'm going to give you the detailed explanation of the applications and the uses. Now, let us go for the applications of the coordination compounds, which is a very important one, which is a very important topic in our chemistry. So, in the applications, the changes that occur in the property of the metal ion on complex formation, these changes useful for the inorganic analysis as well as we use the organic reagents in the organic analysis. So, these are based on the formation of the complex ion. In addition to this complex formation, we find immense importance in the systematic analysis of the inorganic ions. In the we find immense importance in the systematic analysis of the inorganic ions. So let me first explain you in the separation of the copper and cadmium. The separation of the copper and cadmium, which get precipitated as their sulfides, have been based on the treatment of potassium cyanide. See, once again, I'm repeating the separation of the copper and the cadmium ion. In the qualitative analysis, I'm explaining you in the qualitative analysis. In your practicals, you are having the qualitative analysis. So PSC first year, you're having this one. So in that, in the qualitative analysis, in the cationic separation, we need the separation of the copper and the cadmium. In this, the separation of the copper and cadmium, we get separated as their corresponding sulfides in the second group. So it is nothing but on treatment with the potassium cyanide, cuprous sulfide and cadmium sulfide. Both of them are getting precipitated as the sulfides. In the qualitative analysis, BSc first year, you're having qualitative analysis, the mixture analysis or the salt analysis. In that second group cations are the copper and the cadmium. So this copper, cadmium, how these are getting precipitated is on addition of the hydrogen sulfide gas, they are precipitated as copper sulfide and as these are separated as a cadmium sulfide. Now copper sulfide on treatment with potassium cyanide gives you cuprous cyanide and potassium sulfide. And this cuprous cyanide again further precipitates as the cupric cyanide. Okay, so and this it gets precipitated as the complex ion. Potassium copper tetracyanide complex is formed. Here the complex is formed. Now, In the same way, even the cadmium sulfide on treatment with potassium cyanide, you'll be getting the cadmium cyanide, and the cadmium cyanide on treatment with the potassium cyanide further, it gives you potassium cadmium tetracyanide. So you are getting the potassium copper tetracyanide and potassium cadmium tetracyanide. So these two yields the complexes. On formation of the complexes, we can separate the copper as well as the cadmium. So here is one of the complex application of the cations. Now let us go for the second qualitative application. In the second qualitative application, we are having separation of the zinc and manganese. So first group, the second group you have seen, and these are the fourth group cations. These are the fourth group cation, zinc and manganese. So the zinc and manganese, it is based on the fact that addition of excess of sodium hydroxide to their salts, only the former one yields a soluble complex. It is based on the fact that excess of addition of the sodium hydroxide to the salts, only the former one yields a soluble complex, that is sodium zincate. Okay, but this manganese, former one is the first one. Only this one will form the sodium zincate complex. Zinc chloride, excess of addition of the sodium hydroxide will give you zinc hydroxide. Again zinc hydroxide, excess addition I have told you, on reaction with the sodium hydroxide will give you sodium zincate, which is a soluble complex. Now manganese hydroxide will take. So this manganese hydroxide, white precipitate, it is nothing but the manganese chloride on reaction with the sodium hydroxide will give you the manganese hydroxide. This is a white PPT. It gets oxidized by the atmospheric oxygen to the manganic oxide. So it is the manganic oxide is formed. On reaction with the oxygen, manganic oxide, a brown PPT will be formed. Okay. So here there is a complex sodium zincate. So here in this way, even this is a complex. So by using the sodium, excess of sodium hydroxide, the complex is formed, a soluble one, and here a brown PPT is formed, which is not a complex. In this way, we can separate zinc and manganese. So treatment of sodium hydroxide, complex is formed, which is a soluble one. Here, on the same treatment of the sodium hydroxide, manganese chloride will not form the complex. It will form the manganese hydroxide. Later on, it gets oxidized to manganic oxide, which is a brown PPT, which is a visible one. So thereby, we can separate the zinc and the manganese. Now coming to the next application. The next application is fifth group cations. You are having calcium, strontium, and barium in the fifth group elements. So this I'm explaining you the qualitative and qualitative analysis. Quality we are seeing in the qualitative analysis, cationic analysis, using this complex formation, we are separating our cations. The third example is separation of the calcium and strontium. Separation of the calcium and strontium. This separation, it is based on the fact that when excess of ammonium sulfate solution is added to the calcium and strontium. This separation, it is based on the fact that when excess of the ammonium sulfate is added, ammonium sulfate solution is added to calcium and strontium salts, the later one gets precipitated as a sulfate. The later one gets separated as the sulfate, where the former is left in the solution due to formation of the complex. Okay, so this is left in the solution due to formation of the complex. So here strontium chromate. First, our reagent is the potassium chromate. On addition, strontium chromate is formed and calcium chromate is formed. Strontium chromate on addition of the ammonium sulfate, it will give us the strontium sulfate, a white PPT, which is visible for us. Same like previous one, just like manganese, there brown sulfate, brown PPT is formed, which is visible to us. So here strontium on treatment with ammonium sulfate, a white PPT is formed, okay, which is visible for us, and ammonium chromate is liberated out. And the next one, it is nothing but the calcium chromate. Calcium chromate on treatment with ammonium sulfate will give us calcium sulfate and ammonium chromate is formed. This calcium sulfate on reaction with again ammonium sulfate, excess ammonium sulfate I'm adding. Again on reaction with ammonium sulfate, it is forming a complex, diammonium calcium sulfate, soluble complex is formed. Previously also for us, sodium zincate, a soluble complex is formed. And manganese, it is precipitated as the brown PPT. So the complexes are in the dissolved state, whereas this precipitate is in the visible state. We can in this way separate the calcium and the strontium. So addition of the ammonium sulfate, strontium sulfate, white PPT is formed on addition of the same ammonium sulfate. So in the solution you are having both calcium and strontium. They are precipitated as the chromates. Okay, they are precipitated as the chromates. To this I am adding ammonium sulfate. And strontium chromate will react and form the white PPT. Whereas calcium chromate on reaction with the sodium sulfate, it will form a complex. This complex is in the soluble state. Here in the previous slide also the same concept. Sodium zincate. Here even this is a complex. It is in the soluble state. Whereas manganese chloride, it is in the precipitation state, visible state, brown PPT. Okay. So in this way, you can separate zinc and manganese. In the similar way, we can separate calcium and strontium, the fifth group, cations. Now, let us go for the separation of the silver and the mercury. So separation of the silver and mercury, here, what happens will see. Here, again, these two are the first group elements. In the cationic analysis, qualitative analysis, you are seeing the separation of the silver and the mercury. Silver and mercury, the soluble mixture contains both the ions. It is treated with the dilute HCl. See, the solution of the mixture contains silver ion and the mercury ion. On treatment with dilute HCl, PPT of AgCl is and PPT of mercurous chloride is formed. Hg2Cl2 is formed. Silver chloride and mercurous chloride is formed. Now, white PPT is treated. The white precipitate formed is treated with the ammonium hydroxide. And then we have to filter. The precipitate of the AgCl is precipitated as a residue, forming the complex soluble salt. Silver ammonium complex is formed. Okay, silver chloride, this is silver chloride. On reaction with ammonium hydroxide, you will be making the soluble complex. Here the square bracket should be there. Okay, so silver ammonium chloride complex is formed. Silver ammonium complex is formed. Okay, so the ion containing silver, mercury treated with chloride ions, you'll be getting AgCl, mercurous chloride, and the same these two chlorides are treated with ammonium hydroxide. Silver chloride will form the soluble complex. Now, on the other hand, the white PPT of the mercurous chloride, it turns black due to formation of the black colored complex. Again, it turns into a black colored complex. You see, on treatment with the ammonia. So, mercurous ammonium chloride complex is formed, and again mercury is liberated, and the ammonium chloride and the H2O are formed. So, thus both the ions are separated using the complex formation. Okay, so now let us go for the fifth application. In the fifth application of the qualitative analysis, let us see the separation of the nickel in the fourth group elements. Nickel you can see in the fourth group elements. So nickel forms red precipitate with the dimethyl glyoxime. Dimethyl glyoxime. So in the fourth group you are having the nickel. DMG you call it as dimethyl oxime. If it is double bond NOH, it is zyme. Okay, so dimethyl glyoxime. Dimethyl glyoxime. So nickel forms red precipitate with dimethyl glyoxime. This reaction is used for the separation of nickel from cobalt. In the fourth group, you are having cobalt and nickel. This DMG, this separation, it is used to separate the nickel ion from cobalt ion in the fourth group elements. Okay, DMG in present in the basic media, that is ammonium hydroxide, nickel chloride reacts with the DMG and forms nickel DMG complex. Nickel, here it is the coordinate covalent bonds. Okay, EMG, and this is another DMG. Okay, nickel DMG complex is formed. So nickel salts again on treated with the sodium hydroxide alkali yield the precipitation of the nickel hydroxide. The precipitate it is soluble in excess of ammonia and oxygen in the acids. The nickel chlorides as well as nickel hydroxides, if you take on treatment with the base hydroxide is formed. Okay, here. Again this whatever hydroxide is formed on treatment with the ammonium chloride and ammonium hydroxide. On treatment with the ammonium chloride and ammonium, these are the reagents of the fourth group. Okay, on addition of the sodium hydroxide, here a complex is formed. Okay, the nickel chloride whatever is there on treatment with another test. Okay, nickel on treatment with the sodium hydroxide gives nickel hydroxide. Thus nickel hydroxide on reaction with nickel chloride and ammonium hydroxide, you'll be getting hexamine nickel chloride complex. Okay, this way we can separate nickel in the fourth group cations. So one is with the DMG, here this is a complex formation. The other one is with the ammonium chloride and the ammonium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide, ammonium chloride and the ammonium hydroxide. So here the concept for both of them is nothing but the complex formation. Now let us go for the qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis. Till now you have seen the applications of the inorganic chemistry in the qualitative analysis. Now let us go for the quantitative analysis. Quality we have seen. Separation we have seen. What is present and how to separate using the complexes we have seen, observed. Now let us go for the quantitative analysis. How the applications are there in the quantitative approach. First one is the volumetric analysis. A very good example, volumetric analysis. As you all are familiar, we are applying complexes for the volumetric analysis. This volumetric analysis, we use EDTA. Volumetric analysis are of basically different types, acid-base reactions. You are having the acid-base reactions. We are having the redox reactions. We are having the precipitation reactions. We are having the complexometric reactions. Okay, so analysis, quantitative analysis, volumetric analysis, you are having different types. One is the acid base analysis. Okay, volumetric analysis, you are having acid base, redox, and the third one is the precipitation, and the fourth one is the complexometric analysis. So this way we can determine or estimate an ion. So in the volumetric analysis, I am explaining you the complexometric analysis. We are estimating in the complexometric analysis, volumetric, under volumetric analysis, we are seeing the complexometric analysis. Complexometric analysis, we are using EDTA. Complexometric analysis, we are using the complexing agent, EDTA. This is a ligand. It is a ligand. It will go and bond to the metal ion. How many number of EDTA is found, that many number of metal ions are present. That way, we can estimate a cation. We can estimate an ion. So this is the one we are doing complexometric analysis. We are analyzing a particular metal ion using the complexing agent EDT. Here the cation, here the indicator what you are using is also an indicator whatever we are using, even that is a complexing agent. Okay, so in the complex state, the indicator will show one color, and in the uncomplexed state, it is showing the other color. Before complexing, this indicator will be having one color. After complexing, the indicator will be having the other color. So with this color change, we can estimate we can see the endpoint and we can estimate a metal ion. Okay, so EDTA is used EDTA is used to determine most of the cations by complexometric titration. Complexometric titration. Okay, so EDTA it is used to determine most of the cations by complexometric titrations. The free metal ion bonds with the EDTA, and on addition of the indicator, we will be getting the endpoint. So before complexing, you'll be having one color. After complexing and the complex formation of the metal with the ligand, you'll be having the other color. Thereby, we can estimate the metal ion using the ligands and the complex formation. So you're having many examples. You're having the magnesium estimation using EDTA and solochrome black tea indicator. You can estimate zinc, you can estimate manganese. So you can estimate nickel using DMG and Muir oxide indicator. Like that, different metal ions can be estimated using complexometric titrations. This is an example for the volumetric analysis. Also, the hardness of the water can be determined. In the water, you will be having calcium carbonates, calcium bicarbonates, magnesium carbonates, and magnesium bicarbonates, and different salts, metal salts will be present. How much is the metal salt? How much is the metal salt is nothing but hardness of the water. That hardness of the water can be estimated using complexometric titration. To the water on titration with EDTA in presence of Eriochrome black tea indicator, we can estimate the hardness, total hardness of the water, permanent hardness of the water, temporary hardness of the water. So how hard is the water? How much is the ion present? Can be estimated using the complexometric titration and using the complex formation. And thereby we can see how much is the use of the water. The hardness of the water can be determined using the complexometric titrations, using the complex formation. Now, the second application is in the quantitative analysis, solvent extraction. So still you can see in the volumetric analysis, many metal complexes with the intense color. The colors are different for metals. The complexes use determination of micro quantities of the metal even by the spectrophotometer also you can do. So EDTA is basically used in determination of most of the cations by complexometric titration. Even the indicators are the complexing agents. Those metal complexes have different colors in the free reagent. The most indicators most commonly is solochrome D, solochrome black tea, Muir oxide, readers indicator, pattern indicator, so on. The complexometric titrations even used for the hardness, as I have told you. Determination of the nickel bar potassium cyanide can also be done using by addition of the potassium cyanide, and nickel cyanide is formed, and we can determine the amount of the nickel. So DMG can also be used. Okay, by complex formation we can determine this nickel. So DMG, KCN for estimation of the nickels are the complexing agents. They are the ligands. They bond with the nickel, and thereby we can estimate the ions. Now coming to the second application, that is solvent extraction. The separation of the metal ions through complexation and solvent extraction is also possible for us. Even the solvent extraction can be possible for us. Now we'll take the iron. For example, I can explain you about iron. Iron can be separated from the cobalt, nickel, cerium, and aluminium. Okay, so the extraction can be done using the 8-hydroxyquinoline in chloroform at pH 2 and 2.3. Okay, so next, nickel also can be, nickel 2 can be separated from the iron Fe plus 3, ferric, and Al plus 3. Okay, aluminum extraction using DMG, dimethyl glyoxide, in presence of chloroform, in presence of the chloroform. Okay, now in this way you can separate. So spectrometric separation also we can do. So previously I have explained you solvent extraction. Okay, quantitative analysis, volumetric is our, and the solvent extraction is done. Now we'll see the third qualitative application, that is spectrophotometric determination. In the many metal complexes, spectrophotometric complexes, many metal complexes are intensively colored, and the colors are different from that of metal ions. Okay, so these metal complexes used to determine micro quantities. Spectrophotometrically, you can determine the micro quantities of the substance. So iron 3 ferric, it can be determined by using iron thiocyanate phenanthroline. So iron thiocyanate will form iron thiocyanate. It is a red color complex. Basing on this color intensity, we can determine spectrophotometrically. And the iron, again on bonding with phenanthroline, it will give iron orthophenanthroline. It is an orange colored complex. With vioric acid also you can determine the iron. You'll get the blue colored complex. Basing on the blue color, spectrophotometrically we can determine the content of the iron. Okay, so vioric acid, thiocyanate, phenanthroline, all these are useful to determine the iron spectrophotometrically. Similarly, nickel can be determined using DMG complex, a red color complex. And similarly, copper can be determined using the vioric acid, a yellow color complex is formed. Copper unbonding with vioric acid, copper vioric acid complex is formed, it is a yellow colored complex. Copper can be even precipitated as bis-cyclohexanone auxiliary dihydrazone. A blue colored complex can also be formed. Even using the blue color, we can determine the copper. Okay, it is all by the complex formations which are colored. Now, coming to the fourth application. Fourth application is the gravimetric application. Gravimetry, you precipitate the ions and you weigh them. That is gravimetry. In many forms, complex formation, we can utilize determination of the metals and anions gravimetrically. Anions like the chloride ions and the bromide ions and the phosphate ions, etc. Okay, molybdate, tungstate, arsenate, okay, are the precipitated as a silver salts using diamine silver. Using the silver salts by using diamine silver complex. Okay, so using these we can separate them. Just like that, the complexation replacement method. So different methods can be. Methane can be estimated releasing or released in the complex state with the EDTA. Okay, and we can form the precipitates. And here you can form the precipitate, and the precipitate is nothing but weighed, and you can find out the how much is the quantity. Okay, gravimetrically also we can estimate the ions. In the gravimetry also there is a complex formation visibly. We can see the complex, and by weighing we can know how much is the ions, how much is the anion or the cation. Even in that way you can do. Even by the gravimetric analysis, we complex the ions and thereby we estimate the ions. Okay. So this is the qualitative. In today's applications, I have explained you the qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. Now let us go for a very, very important and most important in a daily life, in the medicine, how they are used. Okay, so in the medicine, first In the medicine, dimercaprol, dimercaprol. Okay, so in the medicine, we use of dimercaprol, it removes the toxic metal ions. The persons working in the industries, they are getting affected with the metals, and once if it exceeds a certain limit, toxicity will occur in the body, and thereby cancer, different damages to the body tissue takes place. So in the medicine, we are using the complexing agents and complex formation. We remove all the complexes. So usage of the dimercaprol removes the toxic metal ions. Also in the cancer therapy we are using. For example, you can see this is dimercaprol. Okay, so dimercaprol 2,3, 2,3, 1, yes, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 2,3 dimercapto. Sulfur you call it as dimercapto. Dimercapto 1 propanol. This is propanol. OH position carbon is 1, and this is to second carbon, this is third carbon. Sulfide groups, mercapto you call it as. So 2,3 dimercapto propanol 1 propanol is called as dimercaprol. It is called as the dimercaprol. This dimercaprol is an effective chelating agent for the heavy metals like arsenic, mercury. It is an effective chelating agent for the heavy metals like arsenic, mercury, and tin. Similarly, gold. Okay, so for this poisoning, you can use dimercaprol. It is a complexing agent. It will complex with the metal ions, and thereby the complex is formed. Okay, the dimercaprol is an effective chelating agent for the heavy metals. These metals form strong bonds sulfur with the sulfur atoms in the dimercaprol. Dimercaprol, eh, actually, it was originally we used this one. It's to treat the toxic effects of arsenic in mustard gas in the World War One. During the World War One, they have used the mustard gas which contains arsenic. That arsenic is a poisonous one. In order to remove the toxic effects, dimercaprol is originally used. It was originally used in the World War One. Now, dermatitis, it's a skin disease. Okay, so on the toxicity of the metal ions causes dermatitis. See, this dermatitis can be treated using the EDTA creams. Nowadays, you can see the creams. You'll be having some of the EDTA creams. You'll be applying. So, due to the metal poisoning, also, this dermatitis, this itching, the scaly formation, itching, everything will occur. Dermatitis problems can be treated using the EDTA creams. EDTA is a complexing agent. It will complex with the toxic metal, and thereby it will remove it on wash, and that gets eliminated from the skin. Similarly, lead poisoning, copper poisoning. Persons working in the industries, they may get affected with the lead and the copper poisoning. On treating with the EDTA injections, this lead and the copper can be, their poisoning can be removed. Okay, so these are treated. So the metal, the lead and the copper metals, they complex with the EDTA. Complex is formed, and on giving the EDTA injections, they complex, and the complex, whatever is formed, get urinated. Okay, they excreted in the form of urine. Okay, dimercaprol, as I have told you previously, it treats the toxicity of the arsenic. Previously, in the during World War One, this was first employed. We have used it. So they have released the mustard gas which contains arsenic, and the toxicity of the arsenic is removed using the British anti-leukocide. Okay, using the dimercaprol. Now, in the industries, we'll go for the industries, a very, very important use. So medicine we have seen. In the industries, how it is useful. Transition metal complexes are employed with the catalyst of high specificity and the selectivity. So transition metal complexes employed as a catalyst of high specificity and the selectivity. transition metal complexes, they have either partially filled d orbitals or the f orbitals, and these vacant subshells act as a bonding sites, enabling them to function as the catalyst. Okay, so these complexes are useful for us. These complexes. These complexes are useful in the industries. They are useful as the catalyst. So a very, very important one, is Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So why these complexes are functioning as the catalyst, I have told you. Metal complexes, they have partially filled d or f orbitals, and these vacant orbitals acts as the bonding sites and enable to function as the catalysts. Okay, so the catalytic properties of the transition metals and their complexes are due to the fact that they have exhibit multiple oxidation states. They exhibit the multiple oxidation states and they are having many bonding sites. So they function as the catalyst. A very, very important catalyst is the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. Ziegler-Natta catalyst, it was discovered, Ziegler-Natta catalyst discovered in presence of the combination of transition metal halides, titanium tetrachloride. Here the printing is somewhat lighter. The titanium tetrachloride. Okay, so Ziegler and Natta were the scientists. They discovered in presence of combination of the transition metal halides like titanium tetrachloride, titanium trichloride, zinc bromide, titanium chloride halides, vanadium, chromium, molybdenum, tungsten, okay, all combination with the organometallic compounds here, organic group with the metal, organometallic compounds, okay. So here it is triethyl aluminum, okay, stereospecific polymerization is carried out. Now, this alkene in presence of this alkene in presence of this metal halide and the organometallic compounds, they bond and they form the stereospecific polymerization reaction. They perform the stereospecific polymerization. Okay, so this together you call it as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. These are having the stereospecific polymerization for the alkenes. Okay, this is one alkene, double bonds breaks, and again another compound will alkene and alkene, so on, keep on getting added. Poly molecules get added. Alkenes, n number of alkenes combine in presence of this catalyst. It is a complex. Okay, so thereby n number of molecules combine to give here. Okay, alkene will give you the polymer molecule, stereo regular arrangement. Okay, why you call the Ziegler-Natta? Ziegler the scientist and Natta scientist, they have discovered in presence of combination of transition metal halides, organometallic compounds, stereo specific polymerization taking place. It involves 3 steps. So the first step is initiation, propagation, termination. Okay, catalyst, complex catalyst. This is the complex catalyst. The catalyst is formed. It is the complex. Okay, metal, central metal atom, and this will combine aluminum, titanium, chloride. This all combine to form the here. It's a complex catalyst is formed. This catalyst, in presence of this catalyst, here is the alkene. Okay, it bonds to R molecules. This R molecule coming and bonding here. This bond is broken down. Okay, this cationic complex, it is getting the alkyl group and it is bonding with the double bond, and thereby R is bonded here, catalyst is bonded. Again, propagation, the same molecule is taken and repeated with one more alkene. Okay, the bond is broken here. Again, this R group is getting attached, this cation CH2. Okay, CHRR. Yes, RR. This it's getting bonded to the double bond position. Okay, and the termination here. termination. In the termination reaction, what happens is here the printing is somewhat okay. So here it's not somewhat it is invisible, the termination reaction. You're having the catalyst. Here it is CH2, again CHR, again CH2, CHNR, again on combination here HX, okay, and thereby this complex is formed and cation X is coming outside. Catalyst, this is the catalyst, okay, catalyst CH2, CHR, CH2 bracket CH2, bond CHR, bond R, R prime, here n times at the bracket, plus HX. Again, it gives on the arrow mark, it forms the catalyst X, okay, halide and the catalyst. Same titanium chloride, catalyst, halide, plus CH3, bond CHR, bond CH2, brackets, bond CH, down R, and N, bond R prime. This is the polymer react. This is the polymer. Catalyst is separated outside. Again, it is coming outside. The catalyst has come outside. This one, the catalyst has come out, and here okay, catalyst CH2 R, the termination reaction, CH bond R, CH2, CHN. So catalyst still in the bonding position with the alkene. Hydrogen halide is added, and thereby catalyst and the halide will liberate outside. Here HX is added, hydrogen halide is added, and this X is combining with the catalyst. So catalyst halide. So titanium halide has here the catalyst has come out, and the polymer is formed. Okay, the polymer is formed. This is the way the catalyst, the complex catalyst will perform the organic reactions in the industry. Okay, I hope everybody have understood. So the first one is the initiation, the second one is the propagation, and the third one is the termination. First combination is the initiation, and continuation is nothing but the propagation, still the polymer formation. Termination is catalyst will come out. Now let us go for one more application, the very important application. So before that, let me give you some importance of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, how it is taking place. So this is used in the preparation of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. It is used in the preparation of the polypropylene, polyethylene, polydiene. So different types of polymers are formed using this polymerization. In this method, these are all the stereospecific polymers are obtained in this method. Stereospecific polymers are obtained in this method. And during polymerization of the propylene, different conventional catalysts are used. Normally random, lactic polymer, it is obtained. But using suitable catalyst, solvent, and the temperature, you can produce a desired stereoisomer. Okay, so it is used to prepare polypropylene, polyethylene, polydiene, etc. Many polymers. Almost everything stereospecific polymers can be formed. But using the conventional catalysts, only atactic and random polymers are formed. The desired ones you don't get. But if you use a suitable catalyst, suitable solvent, and suitable temperature, you can get a desired type of the stereoisomer using the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So very important catalyst in the industries. Now let us go for the water softening. Water softening, you are having here chalcone, a complex salt. Chalcone, a complex salt. It is nothing but sodium hexametaphosphate. Sodium hexametaphosphate. It's a complex single. We use this one for the softening of the hard water, removal of the ions. I told you complex symmetric titrations, hardness of the water can be removed using the complexation. So softening of the hot water can be done using this Calgon. Calgon, first it ionizes to give complex ion. Yeah. This is the Calgon, sodium hexametaphosphate. Here the complex ion. It first converts into the complex anion. It's a complex anion. Okay, so this complex anion on addition to the hard water. In the hard water, you're having the calcium ions and the magnesium ions. Okay, these bond, the sodium ions come out and the calcium ions get exchanged into the water. So calcium ion, magnesium ion, it's nothing but the water. In this water, whatever calcium ions are present, they bond with the calgon and sodium is liberated outside and the calcium is bonded inside the calgon. Similarly, magnesium ions bonded into the calgon and sodium ions are liberated into the water. Exchange process of the cations takes place. The complex ion keeps the magnesium and calcium ions in the solution. The complex ion, this calgon complex ion, it exchanges all the calcium and the magnesium into its solution and thereby it will liberate the sodium ions. The complex anion, this results in the removal of the calcium and the magnesium ions from the hard water and thereby in the form of complex the calgon comes out. The water is softened and the sodium side result into the released into the water. Okay, so once again just I'm going to give you a brief review what I have explained you. So complex ions we have seen. So in this complex ions, you're having in the daily life, we are having many coordination compounds identified to exist in the many areas of the daily life. Minerals, metallurgy, plants, animals, everywhere. So, and these we are utilizing. We are using in the inorganic analysis as well as the organic reagents we are using. So based on this complex formation and their properties, we have used them for the applications. We have used them for the qualitative analysis. Today we have seen the copper and the cadmium separation, zinc and the manganese separation, nickel and cadmium and the strontium separation, nickel separation, silver separation. Okay, nickel separation, silver and the mercury separation we have seen. And in the quantitative analysis, you are having the volumetric analysis, solvent extraction, spectrophotometric determination, gravimetric we have seen. In the medicine also we have seen how the dimercaprol is used. So dimercaprol in the medicine, even in the cancer treatment it is used. This complex formation, even for the rheumatoid arthritis, this copper is used. Okay, these complexes are used in different fields for treatment of the diseases in the medicine. Okay, in the industries, I have told you an example of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst in the polymerization. In the similar way, many catalysts are there. In the water softening also, we have used. Okay, so still there are many uses, many applications, vast applications in our daily life to these complex compounds. Okay, I have given you an important and a brief review of the vast applications of complex compounds. I hope everybody have understood this lecture. Thank you everyone for listening to my lecture.